First, before I sort of start us off with a prayer, I just want to say my name is Siobhan Neilland. I'm the founder of the OneMama organization, the sponsor of this session. Jessica, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Sure, definitely. Hi, I'm Jessica Buchleitner. I have been a global partner with OneMama for many years now. And all the way back whenever we were getting OneMama EcoSoc consultative status, which we proudly are in special consultative status of, mostly for our input on women in East Africa in rural communities, which is input in the UN that's severely lacking. So we're happy to be filling that void there.
Thank you, Miss Jessica. Lisa, one of our board members.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on which coast you're on or which country. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So I am a board member of OneMama. I've been on the board for, goodness, Siobhan, maybe 6 years now. It's been quite a while,
Wow.
long time. And Siobhan is one of my dearest friends in the world. And we met when we were both singing in the gospel choir at Glide, which is a beautiful church that welcomes all in San Francisco. Just so excited to be here with all of you today so that we can all talk about how to further empower these communities and uplift women and just all of you. Thank you so much for all that you bring to us today and for being a part of this. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Miss Lisa. Adrienne? Wait, you're muted, honey. Adrienne, you're muted.
I'm muted.
There you go.
Hi, Adrienne Ashley, huge OneMama fan for the last 15 years, supporter of the organization and a huge fan of Siobhan herself. So I am here to talk about women and entrepreneurship and alternatives that we can do to fund worthy organizations that are saving lives.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Adrienne. And then Abby J is the woman behind OneMama. OneMama would not be able to do all the things that we do and all the things we're going to talk about today without Abby. She's super shy, doesn't really promote herself much. But Abby J, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Abby. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been working with Siobhan and OneMama pretty much since the beginning. And it's always a pleasure, passion, and an honor to be part of the organization. And I hope you enjoy this session.
Thank you, honey. Yes, we love Abby, the woman behind the curtain. All right, so welcome everybody. We are getting lots of notes that people are having technologies, but we're just going to go ahead issues. So we're just going to go ahead and move forward. And what I'd like to do first is sort of start with a prayer. We welcome all those from all local and sacred lands, far and near. We honor those indigenous peoples of the lands we stand on, wherever we're standing on in the world. And we take this moment to hold those lands sacred. We hold our bodies sacred. We hold the bodies at all of these lands and these sentient beings that stand on these lands hold. We look at the flames that we're in this candle, and we know that we all have the fire standing within us on these lands, and that we are all truly one, and how we can support each other and our uniqueness and our differences. We ask that we all sort of hold that space in sacredness, whatever that means, in whatever capacity that means for each of us. And as one today, we sort of hope that we do our best to do what is highest and best and right for all, and our words only speak what is the highest and the best, and that we find solutions to help heal and lift each other up. Thank you for all those who have stood before us and who will stand after us, and thanks for everybody who joined us today. Om Peace Shanti. All right, and with that, we're going to share a little bit. We have a little film about OneMama that kind of talks about the overview. It's about 3 minutes. So we'll have that play, and then we'll walk through more about the details about what's been happening in our program, and then the programs that we created to fund OneMama desperately, and we'll also be talking about the issues that are, where we've come from and what are the issues that we've been facing during the pandemic and the political issues now. So, Abby, you're on.
So when I first came to this community, there was not a lot going on. There was a lot of sadness, a lot of deaths with HIV, but it wasn't talked about. Most people weren't getting HIV testing. Most people were having their babies with no medical supplies. So you really have no idea who had HIV or who did not. Children were dying in these villages because there were no services or government support, no health care, nothing. Nobody's ever asked these communities what it is they want. They just imposed what they believed is right versus asking the community members what they actually believed they needed. One man, he had tears in his eyes and he looked at me and he said, "I love that you dream so big for us, but our community's never done anything like that and I don't think we can. But we love that you want to." These rural communities definitely know what their basic needs are and that all they need is to be empowered. And OneMama is here to show them how to do it. OneMama's efforts are built around a 3-tier model that can be replicated in the hardest to reach places around the planet. This is based on an integral infrastructure, the birthing clinic, the medical clinic, and the community center, where nurturing this model allows for a community to be 100% self-sustainable within 5 to 10 years. We really want to see this model replicated in 250 clinics around the world, ultimately eliminating the statistic of rural and impoverished communities having babies in these kinds of conditions. The core of any family is the mother, a mama. Life starts with her and it's nurtured because of her. It is said if the women of a community are empowered and educated, the family is educated and moves in status. It's because of the OneMama economic and educational empowerment program that we have created awareness around these issues around birthing, personal hygiene, prevention of the protection from malaria, HIV, STDs, as well as basic health care. And now they're actively being discussed and solutioned by the OneMama model in these communities.
Unlike other NGOs or other organizations who spend lots of money in different things which don't really help the people on the grassroots, OneMama would be very unique an organization because it's coming for the people of this country and it is coming for the poor. Children used to die more often of tetanus after birth. And when we came in, children are immunized for tetanus, then we are having more lives saved. So OneMama is really coming in to do all what would be necessary for the people so that they can get away from poverty. And that is a very brilliant idea. I embrace it with all my heart.
OneMama is one of the few nonprofit organizations in the world that I know of whose beneficiaries receive 100% of the donations and proceeds from their own products, the OneMama collection, and can do so in part because of the for-profit Shaboom products, an all-natural cosmetic line for men and women that I created to be the long-term funding machine for OneMama's U.S. operations as well as building the 250 clinics around the world. This entire movement isn't just about enhancing one community. It's about creating a new global economy that utilizes purchasing power, community building, and joy in smart business that can create global impact through social change. OneMama empowers our volunteers, staff, trainers, and OneMama members with new skills. We have sourced better materials. We help create thriving businesses and methodologies. We teach them about technical skills, trends, and how to improve so that with the next time we come, they can develop those skills and use them to grow their business. We buy the products or crops that they make and we sell them on a global or local marketplace. Our model really does work. We ensure that local populations utilize these skills and cultivate them, and that they are continually worked on after volunteers leave. The OneMama model proves we don't have to be there 100% of the time forever. We just have to be there enough for them to become 100% self-sustainable. We can do this. We can achieve this. We can truly eliminate world poverty statistics through these 250 plus clinics. And all it takes is you, me, and OneMama. It's hard to try to put in these little bullet points my life's work and represent a community that I love and give them justice and not, I don't know, and not mess it up. So. Give now to finish this clinic and help save lives. Visit onemama.org.
Everyone, thank you for watching that. God, I always cry when I see that. It's my family. So give me a little moment to compose myself. So hi everyone who just joined. My name is Siobhan Neilland. I am the CEO and founder of the OneMama organization, and really just the caretaker of some big vision that still not always 100% sure what it is. So OneMama, as you can see from the video, is a birthing clinic. So we really are there to sort of help with stopping HIV transmission from mother to baby, helping create safe birthing, and mortality rates around birthing, and then also medical care. Malaria is an issue in this particular region quite significantly. So also making sure we have malaria testing and treatment for both for all families, and then some other medical areas. So it's a birthing clinic, a medical clinic dealing with sort of 5 major areas of concern around either malaria, STDs, different parasites and bacteria, those kinds of things. And then we also focus on domestic violence and trying to stop that, lower the domestic violence in that region. And we also have an economic sustainability part of it. So the goal is to try to make this, we would have actually been self-supporting within that 10 years. That was the goal. But then the political market changed completely, and so many things have changed in the last 5 years that we've really had to pivot a lot around how the economic sustainability program works, both locally and internationally. And we're going to kind of talk through a little bit about what those things are. And when I did come to this village, 15 years ago, or 16, 18 years ago, most people were making anywhere from 75 cents to $1.25 a day, mostly agricultural, didn't have very many resources. Mama Jamira, still people would come to her for birthing, but she just had a little fishing box that had a razor blade and some string. She didn't really have any resources, and there was no real local clinic or anything nearby where women could have their babies. So it was really very dangerous. And that was sort of where the idea came that if people could have access to just some basic medical supplies, if we could supply someone like Mama Jamira, get her, more training, not just as a traditional midwife, but also have Western assistance and Western medical care, that we could create it. So we actually see this little picture of this thing. This was the original clinic. It was made out of a mud hut. And so we actually started the clinic in before we had walls. We made sure that we hired a nurse, bought more medical supplies, and just started building out this program slowly but surely. And now we have a full clinic, and it's, you know, in a building and all of that. And you know, as we've evolved, now more women will come for prenatal care and postnatal care, which they were not doing before. They're getting immunizations for themselves and for their children. They're more willing to talk about family planning. As their trust grew in Mama Jamira and the OneMama Clinic, their trust also grew in doing other medical areas of expertise. Like HIV was extremely taboo to talk about. Nobody really talked about that. So getting HIV testing was really hard to convince people to do. Over the years of us creating trust in the community, now more people, like, they'll come with their partners, they'll talk about their HIV testing, they're willing to sort of have more of those conversations around family planning and HIV testing and you know, treatment and those kinds of things that they were not really willing to do, or it was considered sort of taboo to talk about. So those are the kinds of cool things that have happened over a 15-16 year period of this nice evolution as we've grown out our products and services for both the birthing clinic. We've, you know, really the birth rate is actually lowered, and then when we also have had more safe births, more women having safer births, you know, we'll have less death mortality rates. So these are the kinds of things that, you know, just are really, to me, inspiring and what do it. The hard part, like, this is the pad that was there when I found it. So women had been coming to Mama Jamira to have their babies for way before I met her. So it wasn't like this was new, but she just had no resources and most of the time they wouldn't pay her. So she was really doing this as service. She would use herbs to help with bleeding or help with any particular medical health issues. So because there was no Western medicine, she was using herbal. So we're one of the few clinics that got permission to continue our herbal medicine and traditional midwifery, which is what Mama Jamira is, alongside Western. So we brought in Western nurses and doctors to alongside work with her so she can continue to do her work, but we're also testing for other things. And if it's outside of our clinic's means, then we will refer them out. And so that model has been, you know, most traditional midwifery is actually, I don't know if it's considered illegal, but you're not supposed to do that practice, except we have gotten that permission to do that from the World Ministry of Health. And because of that, sort of the changes we've done over the last 15 years and the access that we've given to this very small little village community, it also has spread. So Mama Jamira's reputation and the clinic's reputation has even spread to Kampala, which is like a 3 or 4 hour drive away. So people will sometimes come to this clinic to have their baby because they trust the way that we do care here. And predominantly Mama Jamira she's pretty much a medicine woman who you know, can work alongside also our medical staff. So these are the things and it was really important to me that we kept their traditional midwifery is becoming extinct because they're not really passing it on. And so I wanted to make sure that we tried to find ways to keep it, you know, we're trying to document her work, document these herbs, document, you know, these traditional ways in their culture, alongside also adding sort of the medical resources that they didn't have access to. So, you know, trying to keep both the community safe and making sure we're getting them access to proper healthcare, but we're also keeping in mind what the actual tools, like, you know, Mama Jamira has all these herbs that can make a baby turn in, you know, she rubs them on their belly and the babies can turn if they're misadjusted in the belly. She has ways of making it so that the birthing is less painful. She just is pretty amazing. And part of what inspires me is that I was raised with no running water and electricity in Southern California. That's a picture of me as a kid working the land. There's me in the UN sort of talking about these things. And, you know, because of my own health issues and my own past, I feel a passion that I really want to make sure that I'm helping others feel empowered. And I don't really have the power to do much, but what I do have the power is to hold people's hands and say, what do you need? How do we do this together? And that's what we really want with, you know, people who want to get involved with OneMama or do this. And this particular session is really what we want to share in a really open dialogue is, you know, running an organization like this is not easy, right? The biggest obstacle, I see 85% of your time is trying to find ways to fund it. So these are the kinds of things that are really important for us to see, you know, how do we do this differently? And so we're, you know, even in that video was done, I think 8 years ago or something. You know, some of our programs have changed because the market is really changing, right? Shaboom was really a great way for me to pay for my US operations and my staff for OneMama. But Amazon has changed its algorithms and the markets have changed. And so some of how that makeup sells and the price points on it make it so that 20 to 40% that goes to paying for the US operations for OneMama has really changed. So these are the kinds of things that you want to think about as we sort of talk through this and what are the things that we've done. So some of the things that we built that originally started is we would have the community learn how to make OneMama dolls. We would have them learn how to make paper beads. Like this is an iPad case that, you know, we have them custom make. We had them make baskets, and these are purses that are made out of paper beads. And it took a long time to teach the community how to make these things. We'd hand make them, we'd pay them once they've made them, and then we would bring them back to the US and sell, or Europe to sell in more prosperous markets. And then we also created things that we could sell locally, like agricultural crops, and we did sandals and fishing baskets. So we pretty much, over the 15 years of doing this, there's always usually about 15, 20 different either local and international programs that we do to sort of keep this clinic funded. And I'll go a little bit more into those in a second, but the thing that what's been really interesting is when things started to change politically on an international plan about 5 years ago, and that really started to, with the partners that we had, they were enabled to get some of the medical supplies. We were enabled to get birth control. We were enabled to partner with some of our people who gave us certain types of medical supplies or resources or consulting for our domestic violence. So we've had to pivot and change a lot, like with our resources and the offerings that we have, because the political market has changed so much, or we just literally could not get something like birth control for several years. So then our numbers increased and we didn't have access. So we would try to, do more classes to try to train women on how to have more self-care for themselves, to try to not get pregnant when they didn't want to get pregnant because we couldn't get birth control. Like literally just were not in the pharmacies for us to get for a while. So these are the kinds of things that we were facing and trying to always figure out how to pivot. And then with the pandemic, we had kind of right around 10 years, had most of our local things of like our crafts and our clothing, which we went to like New York Fashion Week and tried to get that as a global brand that people would buy that, so that 100% of the like outfit I'm wearing, which would save about 100 lives, would go directly to the clinic, and the community was making them and getting better at making them. But things just started to change as the political market changed, as well as and that's really what had been funding us all along. But as the political market changed, as the other markets started to change, and then the pandemic happened, really everything started to change. So all of the on-site programs that we have, like we have a catering site, we rent tents, we rent chairs, we have agricultural crops that we had crafted, we have a computer lab, we have, we're making baskets and beads and clothing. all of those have had to completely stop during the pandemic because everything was completely shut down. And up until almost November or December, most of our community was completely shut down. There couldn't travel. There was even a part for almost a year where we could barely get medical supplies to the clinic because you weren't allowed to be on the roads. So I had to get special IDs for my staff to get go to a pharmacy, get the medical supplies, to get a permit to come and bring them to the village. So these are the kinds of things that has started to, and that just really stopped. The 100% of how we have funded ourselves for the last 15 years has been predominantly the clothing and the crafts that the community itself makes. It's part of how it's helped them economically. And then when everything shut down, we had to we literally couldn't have them come meet to make the crafts. We couldn't get everything to them. So it's been a really tough couple years. The agricultural crops, we also couldn't get everything we needed to get those crops to work the way they needed to. So we had to shut that down. We had to shut the computer lab down. We even had to shut down the domestic violence trainings that we had monthly because we couldn't bring those consultants in to help us, and we couldn't have people gather. So domestic violence increased. The Ministry of Health, really was depending on us because we had lowered the number of domestic violence incidences in our area. So these are the kinds of things that have been really, it's sort of interesting watching the dynamic of doing this for 16 years, where we were really close to our economic programs are making this so it's fully self-sustaining, and then the pandemic hits, and then now everything is starting to unravel, and all of the ways that we have funded ourselves started to unravel. And and then even the markets change with how makeup sells, and so that was one of our ways that we were trying to fund some of the bigger things. So what my staff, have been doing lately is we've been trying to do what are local things that we can do. So we have Mama Jamira herbs; those still sell. So people still come to that. That's helping keep her running and her community. We've got things that we're now that things are starting to open back up in January. We're still starting to, we do tent rentals and we do chair rentals. These are things that are locally based. They're building back up the fishing baskets and the shoes that are local, things that can sell locally. Again, the percentage of that comes back. We're working on a water project. We've been trying for 4 years to get this water project, but every time we are almost there, some big thing happens. So these are the kinds of things that we're still trying to do locally. What we've also started to do, since the community hasn't been able to meet as much and just started getting off lockdown in January, is building out things here more internationally that we can do to get money there until we can get those local crafts and local programs back up and running, or pivot and find new ones. And the reason I'm telling you all of this story is that, it's tempting to think, oh, I've got this idea and it's going to work, right? And it really did. All these things, we've had these work and kept this clinic open for almost 16 years. It's pretty amazing that this, self-sustainable programs have worked. But as the world changes and things go, we have to continue to change these things that we've done and find new ways to keep us open and keep the doors open. So, one of the other things that we are starting to do now is create local, we added more testing to our clinic. So we couldn't even do COVID testing because we couldn't get access to any of the COVID testing supplies that we needed for our lab. So we've been doing rapid testing, we've been doing other testing. Those are kinds of things that, can help the clinics be self-sustaining. Said it's also giving access to the community to test for things. We've started teaching more at schools, and the schools will pay OneMama Clinic to come and immunize or take care of them. So those are some other ways that we can keep the clinic. So again, trying to pivot and try to find new ways that, one, we can keep making sure we have more access to everyone in the community, but we're also keeping the clinic running and moving forward. Now, let's see, where are we at? Some of the things that that we work on is like we probably will move away from the clothing line. The woman who was helped start that, she passed away. And there's also just not working as much. These are the original crafts and things like the OneMama dolls. We will probably still keep moving forward. So we'll start pivoting as we change what crafts that are focused on. You can still buy them. We still have inventory of those. So if any of these look interesting to you, you can go to the onemama.org site, and 100% of that goes back into the clinic. I personally don't take any salary for any of this. I really use all of these programs as 100% ways to make sure that we keep this clinic running. It's my passion. Mama Jumeirah is like a mother to me, and this community is like a family to me. So it really is important that we do whatever we can to keep those. We will still have some crafts that we keep the community moving forward, but as we move forward, we're going to keep changing things and see what are the crafts that continue to sell well internationally and locally, and then pivot and change those. And you know, as we continue to train the community, or what are things that we can do. So the community just came out of lockdown in January. They started bringing their kids to school finally. And with that, what we started is a new program. One of my dear friends who supported OneMama a lot and lived in Uganda, he passed away during the pandemic, and he left 3 beautiful children. And we created a sponsor a child program based on him. So now we're actually adding more children to this, and we've started sponsoring children. So this is a way to help support in his name, but also there's so many kids who have lost their parents to either COVID or to AIDS. So we want to make sure that we're, this is another offering, a way that we can, a percentage goes to keeping the clinic running, but it also goes to sponsoring those children. So this is another way where we're kind of double and triple, supporting different avenues to support. So our sponsor, you can check our sponsor, our child program. And these are the 3 first children that we've started, and we'll be adding more children as we go along. But just another thing, and we've also started working more as creating fiscal sponsorships with other nonprofits for smaller programs that need that extra support and don't have a 501c3. So these are some other ways that we're sort of pivoting to try to make sure that a percentage is still keeping the clinic running, but is also supporting other programs that we just don't have the resources to do, and someone is passionate about. So, these are the kinds of things that help keep my heart moving forward, of okay, so what we used to work isn't working now, but here's the ways that we are still moving forward to try to keep things moving with both that community as well as expanding out farther. Next slide, Miss Abby. So the 3 here are all the pillars of things that we've created that are more of an international funding solutions. We created the Fighting for Joy, which just launched. You'll see it in the chat. We started this 7 or 8 years ago, but with lots of different changes and things going on in the world. We just launched it live a month ago, and this is something about, I come from a pretty traumatic background and really used a lot of exercises and tools to help heal myself, and I documented all that and created a year-long course so that people could have that as well for themselves. So it's another way that I've decided to give this away for free, or if people want to donate, they can. We were going to have it that, 100% of the proceeds, anybody who donates toward this goes to OneMama. It's another one of those things. It's an offering that I created so that it can people help themselves, put their own oxygen mask on, and then they can also help someone in the process. So this has gone live. You're welcome. Any of you who are on this call, you're welcome to do this. You can sign up. You can go there. It's an option for doing it for free. And there's also options to donate if you want to participate this. And it's really just affirmations, tools to help us find ways to find more joy, no matter how crazy. And obviously the world is a bit crazy right now, and it continues to get crazier. So these are the kinds of things that can really, another one of our big programs that we're trying to launch internationally, and so that anyone from their home can find some joy, and they know that also participating in this is also helping somewhere like Mama Jumeirah or the village as well, and these, hopefully the future clinics as well. And then the other on our pillars is, I used to do a lot more public speaking. It's been a little bit hard during the pandemic, but I would always donate a percentage of my proceeds for any public speaking or any of those types of programs. And then this year, what we launched, in my day job to make my money, I work as a recruiter. I work for Amazon AWS as a leadership technology recruiter. And I have created these programs called leadership engagement advancement programs and interview coaching. And I coach leaders and executives on how to have more advocacy for themselves, really working on helping drive more diversity in our leadership so that we have more diverse representation in leadership in companies that are like Amazon and some of the most powerful companies in the world. So that's what I do in my day job, and I've really tried to build out those types of programs. I've got 2 or 3 programs that are running across all of AWS right now, which is Amazon Web Services. But now what I've decided to do is take some of that interview coaching that I do on the corporate level and offer that privately. And so I have people who take one-on-one classes with me or take my group coaching classes, and 100% of those, that goes to OneMama. So it's just another way that I'm adding value to making sure I'm getting money raised for OneMama and donating my time to do that. So these are some things, like if you have those kinds of skill sets, like how do you pivot and change those so you could donate those to raise money for your program? And then we still have the Siobhan products line, but we're pivoting. We just added some new kinds of jojoba makeup line, and we've more products for our makeup line. So you can always go to siobhan.com and see those things. Now, again, because the market has changed, the makeup doesn't have as high a percentage of profit. So not as much is going to OneMama because of that. So that's why we're pivoting and adding more of these products. But the product line is still here, and we still use it quite a bit, and we still drive revenue for OneMama for it. Again, I don't take a salary based on Shaboom. I donate all my percentage and 20 to 40% to OneMama, so of the revenue. So to me, I built this makeup line it's a makeup line that I love, that I built so I can have healthy skin, but I also use it to really push and was one of the goals to keep that sort of long-term funding for OneMama on an international basis and to pay for more of my US operations. And then so these are some of the problems. The other thing that we started in the last 2 years is, with all of the shutdowns and all those things, we realized that people wanted to donate products, furniture, office furniture, cars, land, property. So we created a donation pickups where 100% of that goes to, they'll be donated. We have a partner, e-consulting, who will take those and resell those products or items that are donated through donation pickup, and that money will be raised for OneMama. So we have a few other partnerships for some things that may not be able to sell, but those are things, or if there are items that we could just give to local families in need, we also do that as well. So those are some of the programs that we have for OneMama, and most of our e-commerce situations. So I think that's pretty much it. What I'd like to now do is sort of talk about, I'd like to introduce my panelists. I brought a few people on as panelists to talk about each of the different programs that they have. So each of the people here is, you may have noticed that, like, my family in Uganda is truly my family. I got married there. Like, my husband gave Mama Jumeirah a cow, which incited a wedding. Abby, who is the backbone of OneMama, she is also on our board. All of the graphics and websites and all these different entrepreneurial things, she has built all the behind the scenes, the technology behind it. She is like a family to me. She's in my will. Jessica is also, helped get us to the UN. She's, wrote a story about it, so she's going to let us go. But Lisa is on our board. She's also one of my dearest friends. Adrienne and I have been on a long journey together, and she's always such a big supporter of OneMama and really empowering women. So I just want to like introduce some of the women that, you know, what I realize is it takes a village to run a village, right? It takes us all to really lift each other up. I do not feel like I have the title CEO and founder, but I don't feel like I really am. I feel like I am the caretaker of a dream that's so much bigger than me. And this dream is a windy roller coaster that I don't know how most of the time we stay funded. I don't know how this works. But because I have women like this in the circle with me, I know that somehow this is all going to work out. I just don't know exactly how. And I think we just all keep supporting each other. So what I'd like to do first is introduce, let's see, who am I introducing? Jessica. I'm going to introduce Jessica. I'm going to put her up on the screen. And so Jessica, what I'd love for you is you talk a little bit about how you got involved with me and OneMama, and tell us a little bit about, and those of you who don't know, Jessica could recite UN, you know, transcripts like verbatim by memory. So she's just really very knowledgeable about international law and all different kinds of things that are really about having advocacy for women on such a large scale. So Jessica, please give us a little bit of a taste of some of the things that you've been up to and how you support us.
Definitely. So how Siobhan and I became acquainted to begin with is that I was working on a book series called 50 Women Anthology series. And the purpose of this anthology series was to convey the strength of women globally. It includes the stories of 50 women from 30 countries around the world. And the uniqueness of these stories, particularly in Siobhan's story, is nobody would think that a woman living in California would have had the background that she had, and also how that background shaped this work with OneMama, which is growing up in a rural community, growing up with a father who was considered by the FBI a criminal, direct quote, not my labelings. Of course, and profiling these women and how they've overcome so many obstacles was core to the series. And what happened eventually as a result of the series is that OneMama is now a consultative partner to ECOSOC at the UN. And why this is so significant is we don't hear much from women in rural communities. That's been, as you can see on my background, that's been a subject year after year, is how do we bring rural communities to the forefront? And we've got two challenges here with CSW. The first challenge, like as you can see in my background, the first challenge is that we don't have internet in a lot of rural communities. So they're largely cut off from technology infrastructures that would enable them to even participate in an internet version of CSW. The second thing that we don't have are resources to travel to New York City, which, as a lot of you know, is an extremely expensive city to travel to get a hotel room at. And when you have a small NGO operating on another side of the globe in a rural community, their operating budget is generally not very big. So traveling to CSW to present in person for one of them without conference funding assistance or session funding assistance is very, very expensive and would probably take 50 to 75% of their annual budget. So that's been a really big challenge at the Commission on the Status of Women, is getting representation of women in those communities properly, which actually is a provision in CEDAW, is calling for equal representation of women from all different areas. So, and also there's the ranking of the sessions annually that we deal with, where women from these communities are not given top spot sessions. The larger NGOs, the European or the US based NGOs, are given the best, most optimal spots because it's also expensive to book a panel. So as you can see, we've got this web of challenges, and that's where I think, and where I'm personally honored to be representing OneMama, is that OneMama has been in operation in a rural community in Uganda for, what is it, 15 years now, Siobhan, that you've been doing this? So this is 15 years worth of data on maternal health, on domestic violence prevention, that even the Ugandan parliament I mean, Siobhan and I sat in a session with one of the representatives from Norway who had sponsored this side event 5 or 6 years ago, and they were talking about how the police in Uganda didn't even have a database on domestic violence for many years. So that's also a challenge because your local law enforcement isn't handling this issue, and it's probably because they're handling many other issues and don't have the resources to specifically focus on this one thing. So the fact that OneMama can be in an arena like the United Nations during the commission session and be able to present 15 years worth of research, techniques, tactics, projects, target projects, and show the success of that is huge, because it will help other NGOs that are, because we have large NGOs that also operate in these regions, but they can't focus primary programming to these regions. So OneMama is doing a major service for the global community and for women in all rural communities by being able to present these things. And one feat that I want to highlight that I've told Siobhan, of course, she's so modest, that I've told her is something that they should really be proud of, is the fact that they were able to bring vaccinations and around all the COVID issues to this rural community. Because during COVID, rural communities were completely isolated. I mean, cut off. A lot of them don't have good internet access. So all of the things that were happening online in this virtual world, which is now labeled the metaverse, Adrienne will smile that I said that, is they can't even join the metaverse, the secondary world that we as humans have created, because the computing power and the infrastructure is not there. So I have to applaud you, Siobhan, for bringing those vaccinations into this community. That's really huge. And time and time again now, we're on with this current CSW session, the climate change challenge, which, as most of you know, climate change is impacting rural communities more so than it is any other community. So Siobhan, I think my first question back to you, if we want to do this in fireside chat fashion, would be looking at this climate change equation, how does that affect what OneMama is doing going forward? I mean, how can OneMama operate with some of the climate change issues happening in that part of the world?
Yeah, it's a really big question. It's enormous, right? So this is most rural villages tend to be agriculturally based. They don't have access to internet. The cell service is almost impossible. It's really hard for me to reach my team. We have to have specialized times. They have to go to a town where they can get internet or cell service for me to even talk to the team, to wire them money. So, just having that access. So then when you have like their agriculture, they can't run their crops, the droughts. So now they can't feed themselves. So now they couldn't have access to other ways of making it. But the main way that they've, for thousands of years, have taken care of themselves, at least with their agricultural crops. Well, those crops are no longer working the same. The river doesn't run the same. The river's more polluted. There's not access to water. There's no clean water. There's hardly any wells. And we, are trying to build wells so that people can have access to water. And even the water catchment series, like usually there's like a rainy season, but that's now changing and there's more of a drought. So even other ways for them to get water. So it's exponential, and who this impacts the most tends to be women. Women, especially in Uganda, tend to do like 85%, 95% of the work. If you look in the fields, it's all the women. And if they don't have access, they have to work the field harder. They still have to raise the kids. They don't have rights to the land. And so then if that land that they did have, maybe they had a little piece, then somehow, the environment has now messed that up. They can't actually grow on that land. So it's exponential in ways it's hard to even fathom. And you brought up about the vaccines. I can't believe I didn't bring that up. So thank you, Jessica. I'm a little off. I had surgery last week, so bear with me, everyone, as I try to rattle through this. But we could not get testing for our COVID, and we couldn't get access to vaccines. There's 46 million people in Uganda, and only 1 million vaccines were even donated to Uganda up until like October of last year. Do you think about when we started having vaccines? That's a long time, and they were in shutdown. So we couldn't tell who had COVID, and we couldn't get anybody access, including my staff, to vaccines. And so finally, we're one of the few clinics that got in rural communities that got vaccines, and partly was because the hoopla that OneMama does, right? Like, I don't know if you can tell, we do a little bit of a song and dance. I used to be an entertainer, right? Like, so I use the hoopla to try to keep, like, don't forget OneMama, don't forget OneMama, right? Like, so because of that, the Ministry of Health recognizes the work we do. We try to brand it as much as we can. And so we are actually one of the first rural clinics to actually get vaccines. I got our whole staff, including Mama Jamira, vaccinated back in November. And now we have about 4,000 or 4,500 people vaccinated in our rural village, which is just miraculous. And because we were starting, like, I lost a couple really good friends in the village before this happened. You know, it's just been, the impact has been pretty intense. So these are the things that, like, the rest of the world is starting to move on. Oh, I hope we get back to normal. That's not what's happening in places like Uganda. And there's 3 billion people who live under $2.50 around the world. 3 billion people. That's like half the planet. You can't even buy a latte for $3.50 in the US, right? So if we think about these kinds of things, like gasoline is $7 here in San Francisco. I can't imagine. I assume that now, environmentally, now people are not going to be able to even ride their motorcycle or take a boda to go get their vegetables, to go get anything, because they can't afford the gasoline. So the exponential places around both climate, inflation, access to both medical supplies and food and shelter is just kind of going off the charts, including water. Water is getting harder and harder, and waterborne diseases is getting harder to adjust because we just can't get access to clean up the water for our community, and a lot of government regulations around us being able to pull that out. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but there's, what I found in building out OneMama is there's no one straight answer to anything. Everything is like a ball of string all mashed up. To help birthing, I had to figure out how to teach them to make beaded things to fund the birthing supplies, right? Like, there's just, like, everything is so embedded. To be able to get medical care, I had to look at the domestic violence so we could even get the women to come to the clinic so their husbands wouldn't beat them because they came to the clinic, right? So these are the kinds of things that are just so unraveled, and you can think about the same thing when it comes to environmental.
That's really powerful, and it does show the systemic issues that surround this one thing. You're trying to operate a health clinic in a rural community, and I think this is not. I mean, this is not even unique to Uganda. This is a repetitive issue and systemic issue that we see globally. Even women in the U.S. in rural communities, even women in Europe in rural communities, we see this all over. And the good news is that with OneMama's model, and talking about it at the UN level, we are providing case studies and solutions, data, where this normally doesn't exist and where few bigger organizations will actually go. I mean, or can go as in depth as OneMama has. So I think the topic of this panel was on entrepreneurship, and our point here is that we can't wait around for others to solve problems that exist. The point of entrepreneurship and the push towards social entrepreneurship now is identifying these issues and being able to create business opportunities around them. And I think you've proven that you've done that quite well, Siobhan. The books that Siobhan's story is in, which we will actually be providing Siobhan's story today. I think we are, right?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
It's in the chat. All right. So there you go.
In the chat. If you want to know anything about anything we talked about, it's in the chat with a link.
It's a much more extensive overview in there. And one of the things I wanted to highlight is the books that came out of was also an entrepreneurial venture of myself and a process innovation to the publishing industry that was normally very restrictive. I was recently published in Publishers Weekly, which is the trade magazine of the publishing industry, where I was asked to give commentary on this, where women like Mama Jamira's stories will not likely be published by larger organizations. And that's because OneMama isn't on Twitter. She simply isn't on Instagram. She simply isn't on Twitter. She doesn't have the social visibility as a Brene Brown and I'm not knocking any of these other women who have that visibility. It's just that we do live in a world where those women will be given the opportunities and named times 100 people of the year, for example, versus a Mama Jamira who's a hero in her local community. And the point of the types of things that Siobhan and I do is to bring the everyday woman hero into visibility, because that's a figure that's largely missing in our media. We are missing seeing women like this, and they're inspiring stories. And I think the average woman relates to women like this more because it's their struggle, it's their conviction in life. And so what I basically did a process innovation in the publishing industry in order to utilize a massive distribution network to bring the books global that possibly a smaller publisher would never have offered me. And that wasn't good enough for me because I wanted these stories to be out there and to be global. So you can read a taste of that in Siobhan's story, and also see that, again, you can't wait around on someone else to tell your own story, to solve your problems. And no matter what community you're operating in, and I can tell you, because I had many women from all over the world in the 50 Women books who talk about this. We even had a woman from the United States named Annette, who came from what used to be a very difficult neighborhood in San Francisco. And she was leading the charge on getting entrepreneurship funding to that neighborhood, getting laws passed. And it was this one person who did 20 years worth of work in that community. So it really doesn't even take more than one person to make this ripple effect of change. I know that sounds cliche, but I think we have enough examples present today to reveal that that's completely possible. So if there's any message that everyone walks out of today other than OneMama's message, if you take a personal message, the message that I would want you to take is that it really does all start with you. And you are the beginning and the end of that solution in many ways. So
Yeah. And really, if you get an opportunity to read Jessica's book, she has two of them. There's 50 Women Book 1, 50 Women Book 2. And if you're in her book, you pretty much had a crazy ass background, right? Like, just
it's not an easy read. I just
not
warn you
an easy
about
read,
that.
but it's really inspiring. Women from war and torn countries, on cults, on, just usually severely abusive and traumatic situations, who have created inspiring situations to do that, which is, you may have noticed, part of I've created all these entrepreneurial programs, obviously to support OneMama, but it's also to help my own healing and my own trauma. I'm a survivor of PTSD because of all the trauma that I went through in that story in the book. And one of the ways that I continue to heal is by helping others. If I support others and lift others up, it helps keep me sane and helps me heal. And I think those are the other things to look at, like, instead of letting it get me down, how can I pivot and change and continue to heal my own, traumas or issues, so that I can then put my hand out to support others to do the same. And that's sort of what I feel like Jessica's books really show, just this amazing group of women around the world who've overcome just insane. We can think we had a really bad day because we got stuck in traffic, but when you read these books, you're like, oh no, I'm doing great, So I think these are the things that are important to inform ourselves about, and how we can, and also, can we lift people up like Mama Jamira? Like, it was really hard to me that people didn't really want to hear Mama Jamira's story. They wanted to hear me tell about, I lost a baby, and that is what inspired me to go to Africa to go help others, because I looked more like them. And what I've really been trying to do is highlight more people like Mama Jamira. She's one of the most special people in the world that I've ever met. She really is magic. And so I think the more, if we find those kinds of people, we have to find ways to light them up. And if people are putting attention on us, we use that light to shine it on them, So that's what we're trying to do with this, and highlighting, and I hope that comes across. So Jessica, do you have one more question for me? Are you good?
I have to say, I think your commentary is powerful in how you're bringing all of these issues forward, and I think that's the most important thing. I would say, as an entrepreneur yourself, how does someone get started in whatever direction they want to go in? What would be the most important first step to launching something, I would ask?
So I get asked this question a lot, especially like, I want to start a nonprofit, or I want to do this, but I don't think I can. Take wherever the most pain is in your life, or where you're feeling like, if you're watching what's going on in the war right now and you're crying, you are feeling moved. And if you are feeling moved or pained or uncomfortable, that is where your entry point is. Your entry point is where your pain is. When I went to, meet Mama Jamira, I had just lost a baby and had really bad postpartum from it. That was my, foreshadowing in a movie. I end up falling into the hands of a birthing clinic in sub-Saharan Africa after a miscarriage, and to meet Mama Jamira, like, it's just sort of a little too perfect. So follow the clues that that the universe is giving you about what is your pain. I come from, sexual abuse. My father was compared to Charles Manson. I've got lots of physical health issues that I've had. I've been told I was going to die many times in my life. So notice that the things that I end up having support for are medical health, birthing, domestic violence. These are areas where my pain points are, right? They are where there is pain for me. But can I take that manure of my life and push that towards something? And just keep asking. I just kept asking the universe, show me how to take this pain and repurpose it. And that's how a flower gets grows, is through that manure, right? So the muck, a diamond becomes a diamond with all the pressure, right? These are the things where we have to take a look at our own lives and how do we have an entry point into that? How do we make a difference? And sometimes we need to sit and it takes a little while. Like, I didn't think I was going to find my life purpose. And then I lost the baby, and this was not, I wanted something what I thought would be more glamorous. Like, I thought I was going to be a singer. I had a much different vision about what the universe was going to guide me to do. And this was not it. But it's so perfect. Like, I'm really glad that the universe moved me around like a chess piece. So just look and see if you're being moved around in places, or if you're being pulled to do something. And then as far as the entrepreneurial piece, what are you good at, right? Like, I'm good at sort of creating things and just, I created a clothing line of clothes that I would wear in case no one bought them. I created crafts that I would wear in case nobody donated for them. I don't have a degree. I work at one of the most, infamous companies in the world, and I hire people from Harvard, but I don't have a degree. I don't have that much education. But what I do have is persistence. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to show up to do the next right thing. And so what is put in front of you? How do you take the skills that you have? Obviously, I took my entertainer background and I kind of create a little show. That's part of me, right? That's how I sell, whatever the vision I get. So I get sort of visions about what the next right thing for me is. And making sure my ego's not in it, that I'm trying to truly be like, what's in front of me? Like, even Jessica doing the book, how we came together is so crazy. Like, honestly, it was something so much bigger, because I wasn't the type of person she was going to put in her book. I wasn't planning to be in a book. I didn't know if I wanted to do, like, these are lots of things but that led to then us moving to the UN, like, years later, right? What was that, 5 years after you put me in your book, right? So
it was.
You don't know, like, really look at these opportunities, and if you feel a tingle, like, there's just this knowing. If you're meditating and you're praying and you don't have to be religious, but there's this knowing, like, we all have this sort of sunlight of the spirit that's in us, and are we resonating with that, and are we listening to that truth, then taking action. And I don't feel like I created all these programs. I feel like something bigger said, here's an idea, go do it, right? I just have to go do the marching orders of whatever that vision is that comes in. And I think most entrepreneurial women that I see, that's what they do. They're not, I did this, like, it's if you're trying to create it, you're probably not doing what the higher good is. You're probably in your ego. If you're letting it flow through you, again, I have no idea how this clinic is running. We do not make enough donations to keep this clinic running.
She says that all the time. Yeah, she says, I have no idea. And this is like 10 years of you saying that too. Like, I have no idea.
The whole time, the whole 16 years, it's just fascinating, because we don't have grants. We can't get grants. We don't have it's really hard to get grants. It's really hard to get private money. So that's why we created these programs. So that's sort of the answer to that question. And again, find people who are passionate about what you do. Someone like Jessica. Jessica convinced me to come give the voice to Mama Jamira and the village at the UN. And I was like, I don't need to do that. She's like, yeah, you do. We need people like you. And I'm like, no, I don't have time for that. I got to go do this. She's like, no, you need to be here. So also listen to your friends that are pulling you to move into circles that you maybe felt uncomfortable, right? I didn't think I belonged at the UN because of whatever self-selecting imposter syndrome issues I had. So these are the kinds of things, is like, look at who's in your circles. And if you don't have people who are supporting you in your circles to do this, get new people, really find people who will hold you up and find that space. And in the beginning, when I didn't have those people, I read books and of inspirational people, and I helped get myself that. So in my Fighting for Joy course, again, it's free. You can look at some of the tricks that I did to finally get some self-esteem so that I could hold the space to do this. But yeah, well, thank you, Miss Jessica. I really appreciate your partnership, and God, it's been a long journey together, and I'm so grateful for you. And everybody go check out Jessica's books, and she's also is an amazing investigative reporter. She lives in Germany now, or somewhere. I don't even know where she lives right now, but so she does international investigations around women's issues. So definitely reach out and follow her and see. She'll keep you informed. She keeps me informed. So anything else, Miss Jessica, before we move on?
No, it's an honor and a privilege to be here today talking to all of you. I just dropped my website in the chat, and my apologies for the long German last name. Just copy and paste.
Thank you, Miss Jessica. I love you. All right. I now would like to introduce you to Adrienne Ashley. Adrienne is a firecracker. Let's just put it this way. Adrienne has been a really fascinating woman. She's we've been on TV shows together. We've been we belong to this women entrepreneurial organizations. We've been on speaking panels together, empowering women's rights. She's started so many businesses and done so many things across the globe. And now she's been really focusing on cryptocurrencies, and just really how to women to empower themselves through that. So she's going to talk a little bit about that. And then also, she gave the honor of, she helped nominate OneMama and me for an award, which helped get us a lot of visibility for the work that we're doing. And, she's just been a really strong advocate. And again, these are where we really need to lift each other up as women. And Adrienne does that with me all the time. And, and predominantly with OneMama. So we're really grateful for her. And so Adrienne, why don't you talk a little bit about, what the work you're doing and how that's impacting OneMama?
So I absolutely adore OneMama. I apologize for the no voice. South by Southwest, I left it there. So basically, I have known her for going on 15 years now, which is absolutely amazing. I adore what she's doing. And anytime I can find a way to tie in some way to showcase what she's doing and the power of the entrepreneurial self-sustaining solution for a nonprofit for social impact, I always use her as the example. Because a lot of people are like, well, I want to do this. I'm going to go write grants. So I didn't get any grants. I'm not going to do it. I'm like, you're letting that stop you? I'm pretty sure money isn't what is stopping you. It's creativity, right? And Siobhan is like the queen of creativity when it comes to finding solutions. I mean, lipstick that saves lives. I'm like, can we relaunch that campaign? Because I'm about to be in Los Angeles with all of the celebrities at NFT LA. And I bet you they'll all wear the lipstick on the red carpet. It's like, who are you wearing? Well, I'm wearing lipstick that saves lives. Any little bit of influence that people can donate to a social impact cause that is working, that they want to support, is very, very important. I co-founded an NFT project called the Billionaire Zombies Club. Now, keep in mind, this was 26,000 unsupervised frat boys in a Discord. And it is not what you would think at all. You don't know what a community is capable of, But on Giving Tuesday, we launched our token and we made 10 billion tokens. And we decided to donate 10% of that to charity. And one of those 10 charities that we chose was OneMama, specifically because she actually gets things done. She does so much with so little. And while the token value is low at the moment, it won't be. If you look at a lot of these other projects, the donation of 100 million tokens that we gave to her as the project grows could actually sustain them and build all 250,000 or 250 clinics, which I think should be 250,000 clinics. But the point is, if you are an entrepreneur, there's always a way that you can figure out a give back solution in what you're doing. If you're not the person who's going to be boots on the ground and doing the work, she is. So support the person who is. So that project donated tokens. And then my current project, Foxies, is educating 1 million women and girls in blockchain development and entrepreneurship. So I have roped in Siobhan to teach an entrepreneurship for social impact class, masterclass. So her message will also go far and wide globally. But we're also putting in the blockchain development and the STEM programs for children, which once the computer lab is open and working, will also help educate her village over there and give them other entrepreneurial income streams aside from physical, making clothing or agricultural, because they do need the ability to be self-sustaining and generate revenue elsewhere. Another key piece, if you have a nonprofit, which I haven't even told Siobhan, but I'm going to make her do, are these NFT projects, right? You have Women of the World, right? They sold out immediately, and now their floor price is 9 ETH. So it's basically, it's like 9 it's like $30,000, and there's 10,000 of these things, right? So can you imagine creating a social impact project that directly benefits and saves lives and has a woman's focus on it? They're very, very popular. So that's definitely something we're going to put together for OneMama and figure out how we're going to do that to create this sustainable ongoing income. So I think people don't understand that blockchain can solve a lot of problems. It does definitely help with supply chain, but the opportunity, we are short blockchain developers. We are short artists for NFT projects. And I'm certain in that village, there are children or teenagers or adults who are wicked smart. They just don't have the education or the opportunity. We're going to give them that, because once you raise that floor for that whole community, the entire community flourishes. So you just have to figure out how can you help provide opportunity to the people who can actually use it and execute it and keep it going, right? So that's one of the reasons why I support OneMama so fiercely and have for so long. And it was my absolute pleasure to give her an award. She is an inspiration. I'm probably going to give you another award too. I haven't figured it out this year. I'm going to do another award. But so for OneMama and for tokens, so if you're an entrepreneur, think about how you can donate a portion of your early round, like when you do your token drop, just carve off 1% and pick a charity that feeds your soul, that's going to save the world, or at least save hundreds of thousands of lives in the long run when they get to do what they want to do and fully accomplish their mission. And that's OneMama. And so I always encourage people to donate. That's my story. And Foxies is definitely going to be heavily involved with OneMama and educating her community and making sure that those kids, not only are they born safely and healthy, but they grow up to have opportunity.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and you bring up a really good point of like being able, like us trying to create the computer lab, like even teaching them to type or to use the letters was so challenging. So there's an uphill battle for a lot of rural communities. Again, billions of people on the planet just do not have access to this. And what we're hoping to do is to try to create more computer labs, more access, more trainings, and then more things like this where they can really utilize and become part of a global marketplace. Whereas right now, most of them can only be part of a local marketplace, which is just, much more limiting. And so, again, we haven't figured it all out yet, but partnering with people like Adrienne will help us try to figure this out. And being an entrepreneur, you have to make a lot of swinging big, and you'll fall a lot, and then one of them will work, right? So one of them will get wings and we'll fly with it. And so I know, Adrienne and I just keep trying. We keep trying to throw things out there, see what's going to fly. So I know that we will keep doing that, and I really appreciate your support. And thanks for all you do, Adrienne, and thanks for always thinking of us and thinking.
Always, always, and forever.
Thanks, honey. All right. Well, thank you for your support. And now I'd like to introduce you to, let's see, one of our board members, Lisa.
Hello.
Got a pen there. So Lisa has been on my board 7-8 years.
It's been a long time. I was trying to calculate earlier. With the pandemic era too, time feels so strange, right? Like the past 2 years feel like a decade or something.
Yeah. And we have another board member who couldn't make it today, Benita. So you've seen some pictures of her in the slide deck. But so Lisa, you have both been my friend. You've watched, you knew me before I started OneMama. You also have seen the growth of OneMama, and obviously being on the board, you support that. Maybe talk me through a little bit about what your perspective of it is, or you're an entrepreneur as well. Like,
yes,
what are the ingredients, not only of what we've done for OneMama, but other people who could show for them to just in supporting their nonprofits or their passion projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So OneMama for me, because Siobhan and I have been dear friends for a long time. She's one of my soul sisters on this planet. I just feel so lucky to be on the journey with, and has helped me personally so much too in my own journey and fighting for my own joy. So I love you dearly. But years ago when I first started, I met Siobhan first and sang with her in a choir, and then started learning more about this organization, right? About OneMama. And the more I learned and the more videos I watched and the more I saw, I was really just blown away by the impact that this organization is able to make. And and I hope, I haven't yet made it to Uganda to visit, but it's in my intentions to make a trip out there in these next couple of years to be able to meet Mama Jamira and meet some of the beautiful community there. So, but I think for me, what's been most inspiring on the journey, there are a couple things. One is just that I've worked with a lot of other nonprofits and donated to a lot of nonprofits over the years, but the way that OneMama really goes into the community, and it's the people in the villages who decide what they need, and and it's a collaborative effort of how do we then make that happen? How do we create that, manifest that, fund that? And even like when OneMama was first tackling domestic violence, that's something that culturally was sometimes kind of ingrained in people in the villages. So to be able to sit down with the men and say, we need to come together and find other solutions and begin to kind of shift the paradigm, working with the men of the village too. I mean, there've just been so many different ways that OneMama makes an impact that have been so inspirational to me. So I think that part of what's been inspirational on being part of this journey is just seeing how OneMama and Siobhan and this whole team has had to really pivot so much and so many times to kind of figure out, the funding sources that worked and that were really what kept the organization rolling a couple of years ago with the pandemic, and the way that that's impacted the world and politics and how people give to charities and supply chains and all of these things. The Trump administration and the gag order that was put onto nonprofit organizations internationally who provide birth control, right, really directly impacted OneMama. There have been these political situations that have created new challenges for OneMama. So it's been fascinating, inspiring, just to see how the organization has continued to need to pivot to create or find new funding sources, right? So things like what Adrienne was talking about, and her contributions and people being able to donate cryptocurrencies, sort of an incredible new thing, and people stepping up who can be like a OneMama action hero. I'm one of those where you just, donate an amount monthly. So there's sustainable donations coming in. But I think that it's just this ongoing sort of, it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this in a small way and help however I can. And I think in terms of being a woman who's an entrepreneur, for other women here who are part of or starting or running or on the boards of other NGOs, I think that what OneMama shows me, and hopefully we've kind of shown to you today, is that if you have that seed of an idea and that inspiration in a way that you want to help change the world, and you feel called to be the person to do it, there's absolutely always a way to create that path, sort of following the breadcrumb path of inspiration, of like taking the steps. It's just continued to evolve in this incredible way. And like Jessica said, I mean, for years, I've just been in awe of how Siobhan has just always kept this organization running, and the funding always comes through somehow, right? And it always seems like this miracle, but just if you continue to follow those moments of inspiration on the path to create something that you feel called to create, and especially if you can partner with other extraordinary women like everybody in this group is doing, I really think anything is possible. So I hope that any of you today, if you feel inspired to get engaged at the conversation at OneMama, that you'll stay in touch with us. Abby can drop in the chat how to email us, ways that you can stay in contact with the organization, because people can donate money, obviously cryptocurrency, but you can make in-kind donations of your time or your skill sets, or donations of things on the ground. You can buy some of the OneMama products that are still available on the website, or the Shaboom, cosmetics. So there are so many ways you can get involved, and we're just really curious to know kind of where your talents, your vision, your organization, how it intersects with OneMama, and hopefully we can find some beautiful creative partnerships out of all of this as well.
Yeah. So, and I'm glad you said that, because, I think we have a woman, she couldn't make it today because she's in Australia and I think it's 3 a.m, but, she found us from a hashtag at the UN, and she started writing stories for us. So she's a mom of several, lots of little young ones. And she, doesn't have the time to get involved in all these other ways, but she writes. She'll do interviews for our staff or for our programs, and she'll write stories once a month for us. And that was her way to contribute. And it really made a difference, because we don't really have that much staff. Another woman who came to last year, she found a way for us to get some medical supplies through a vendor that donated them. So everybody can find their way through it. Lisa, if you'll see Abby put in there, she just did a TED Talk, which is really awesome. And Lisa is an extraordinary woman on herself. She's pretty humble about it. But, you can check her out. She has all kinds of programs as well to empower women. And at the end of the day, I think one of the things that I think, it's one thing to be an entrepreneur, but you want to not be an entrepreneur that's ego-based, right? You need to be an entrepreneur where you really are grounded in your own being, because otherwise you're going to go into a community or go into something else and tell people what they need to do based out of this ego place. And I think what's really important, and everybody that's involved with OneMama, we really have that prerequisite. We have to check ourselves first. We have to put our own oxygen masks on, look at where our motives are, look at what are we doing, how are we making sure we're being equitable and inclusive and engaged, and we're owning up our own stuff. We all have stuff. And that then we can truly be of service to a community. And I think Lisa is one of those examples of how she continues to do that. It's part of how we know, part of my Fighting for Joy class was actually inspired by some of the conversations I had with Lisa. She would ask me, well, how did you get past this? Or how did you work through this thing? And I would tell her, and I was like, maybe I should put a class together and just take all this stuff and put it somewhere so people can use it. So, these, again, when we have people who uplift us around us, those inspirations can come around. And, this is, we all have something to offer, and it's important for us to make sure we really own that for ourselves. But also don't go to the other extreme of, what's called founder syndrome, where you think you know it all and you're going to demand everybody do whatever. And especially when you're working in other people's countries and communities and cultures, it's really, really important that we don't do that. And especially a woman who looks like me, I'm a white woman, and that can have also some heavy weight to it, that I have to be really make sure I'm walking lightly. And, so these are the kinds of things that I think, I talk with Lisa about a lot as well, to make sure that we as an organization are trying to make sure we're working with walking with care, working with care.
Well, just can I just say just quickly too, because I love you so much, Siobhan, like that really Siobhan's the way she's walked with me personally on the journey, as she said, there's, you know, I have PTSD from some of my own traumas and from being a victim of sexual assault and a stalking, and just, you know, like 1 in 3 women globally, right? I've been a victim of violence in this lifetime, and experienced, you know, used to experience chronic panic attacks and anxiety, and have been through a couple episodes of suicidal depression in my life. So, I mean, Siobhan was really able to walk with me in the journeys and times I was really in the darkness and didn't know if I could come out of it, right? So, but I think that's why that central message that's part of One Mama too, of fighting for our joy, that, you know, there've been moments where I didn't want to stay on earth, and honestly, like knowing I could, you know, fight for One Mama and this organization, that it was something that could give me purpose, right? I mean, there were moments where I just didn't know how to hang on. So I think that all of the work that One Mama does and that we collectively do, it's so alignment in my own personal mission of empowering girls and women globally. And I know all of us who showed up here today, we're all aligned in doing that work. And just, you know, I'm so grateful to be a part of this. So I love you.
I love you too. And I think you just brought up, like, it's kind of our motto, and I realize I sort of forget it, but like my personal goal, which you'll see embedded through everything, is fighting for my own joy. Because some days it's hard to be alive, and I just like have to find the joy of a morsel for that moment. So I have to fight for that. And then fighting for the joy of others so that they can have that morsel. They can have whatever that is. And I think creating a community, that's what the Fighting for Joy community really is about, is that we're fighting for our own joy, making sure, like, this cup of tea, it might be the only joy that day, but I made it through the day, and I know that I'm being of service through that, and I'm focusing on that joy, and then I'm also giving that opportunity for others. And I think if we all sort of walk in the world in that way, and we're like really trying to support each other for finding our own personal joy and the joy of others, I think this place will be a different place. And what's going on with the war in the world, you know, I think we're all really caught by this. Now, this is not, I think what's interesting about this war is that it's so, everybody's much more in it. You know, there's been things going on in Syria, there's been lots of wars and other things going on in the last few years that nobody's really been paying attention to. But for whatever reason, we really are caught by what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, and we see the humanity, the inhumanity, honestly, and the reality of it. And where do we find our joy so that we can own what's okay today for us and be okay with that and not feel guilty about it, but also how can we give that energy and help support, let's say, people in those situations or people around us that are also in pain or suffering just what seems incomprehensible. And this is the walk in life right now, right? Whether it was the pandemic or whether it's the wars or whether it's the climate and the fires. You know, just last year, this whole back thing was the color of Lisa's shirt. The sky was orange and red here in San Francisco because of the fires. And you couldn't breathe outside. You know, the world is changing rapidly, and we all have to figure out, well, how do I find the joy in the middle of that? And also, how do I support each other in the middle of that? And so I think that's the base of all of our work. It's something that Lisa and I talk about a lot. So we now are going to open it up for questions. Before I do that, if there's, you know, I know there's only a few of you, but we'll have this as a recording. Abby, I'd like you to keep me honest. Is there anything that I am missing right now? I feel like I didn't completely go on our agenda.
No, I think it's been pretty on track. I think you're doing great.
All right, good. I used to do these talks like once a month or several times a month, and honestly, I haven't really spoke much this last year, so bear with me if I rambled a little bit. And we're, you know, if any of you have questions or want to get involved, like everybody said, you know, there's tons of links and information about all the different entry points of how to get a hold of us. You can go to onemama.org, and pretty much Abby and I will respond to you. And if there's any, you know, suggestions you have, we're always open to suggestions or thoughts of how you want to get involved or how we could possibly partner or support you. Please let us know. And then now would be, if any of you have questions, you can use the little raise hand feature, and we can ask a question, and I'll let Lisa moderate that.
Sure. Yes. I'm scrolling through the chat right now. And if anybody has questions they want to ask. It's a small enough group of us. I think somebody could unmute themselves too, right? Or just drop it in the chat.
Hand and then we would unmute them.
Okay. Okay. Great. So we, I'm scrolling back through and I've seen some people who want us to be in touch with them to chat some more. So I'm going to collect that information. But a couple quick questions I would pose are just, if people want to get involved, I mean, beyond giving a donation or being a monthly membership action hero, right? Like I make a monthly contribution every month and you can pick any amount that that fits your budget, obviously. Obviously, if people have in-kind donations, skill sets, organizations we can partner with, we're interested in having all of those conversations. So we do want to be in touch. And if you want us to stay in touch with you, please, drop your contact in the chat, because I'm collecting that information too. But can you just talk a little bit more, Siobhan, about if somebody wants to be that person who makes that ripple effect of change, like your friend Marty, who threw the dance party and raised money for OneMama online. Like, can we talk about some of the opportunities people could do to like help spur a little fundraising effort on their own, or make a difference for OneMama?
Making a difference is actually so easy. That's what's kind of crazy about it, right? Like, think about, I run this international organization and manage 40 people in my spare time, right? And I've created all these programs in my spare time. I have a full-time job for Amazon. Like, Amazon is one of the most intense places to work in the world, right? So I do this in my spare time. If I can do this in my spare time, you can do something simple. But my friend Marty, I'm so glad I forgot about that. We didn't have the slide on it, so I forgot about it. But last year, during the pandemic, my friend Marty, who's here in Marin, she she got all her friends together for her birthday, and she hired a little dance teacher. And then this big open thing, she videoed it, her and the dance teacher, and they did a dance class. And so they did a virtual dance class with everybody in their houses doing kind of, in the beginning of the pandemic, people were doing those types of dance classes together. She got like 100 people on there, and she raised $2,500 in one day for OneMama. And I just started bawling, honestly. I was so touched by that she had done that. And it was so simple. She had a great time, celebrated her birthday. All her friends got to celebrate her, and they all got exercise, and everybody was happy and, got out of themselves for a minute. So there are simple ways that you can do it. Lisa has done some really good campaigns where she's taken some of her coaching or women's workshop, and she'll create that workshop, and then she'll donate some of it to OneMama. She'll create some campaigns where she'll do a dance party or something like that as well. We've had where we were sponsored for New York Fashion Week, and we came out and, we got to have our own fashion show in New York Fashion Week for several years in a row. We didn't have to pay to present our clothing. We got to be one of the guest fashion lines. So that's a way where someone, donated our space, our ability to present our stuff in a very unique environment. We've also had, where some people will have us at their parties, and then we'll come and we'll talk for 15 minutes about, OneMama, and we'll do giveaways with the OneMama collection. Adrienne's had me come at her events and come and be a guest speaker and also do giveaways and things like that. So there's a ton of things that we can do that it doesn't even require me having to come and speak, but there's, if you come to go to onemama.org, we have a page of different ways you can get involved. We have, kind of also what Adrienne's doing, where she's doing all this blockchain and ways to get, people to think about, like on, what's that thing called? Clubhouse, where she's like, in a room with a bunch of influencers, and she's like, you want a charity donate? She tells them, donate to OneMama, right? So these are the kinds of things. And then Jessica, in her article, she reaches out to people and say, if you want to learn more about, OneMama, go do this, or she'll invite us to go participate in some United Nations or international initiative, so that the voice at least is heard. Might not always raise us money, but at least, again, I feel like my job as the leader of this this is to keep the voice. Like Jessica was talking about, rural voices are being drowned out. Like almost 3 billion, almost 4 billion people nobody's listening to their voices. and we've got to lift them up. So even if we're just, if you can invite us to participate in some way in that way, but also, you know, obviously do need money. It takes money to keep the medical staff running. It keeps money to keep the medical supplies coming. So those are the kinds of things that that mean a lot. So thank you, Tammy, for joining with us, but I think she already left. Anyway.
Yeah, she wants us to stay in touch, so I'm going to follow up and we'll loop you in. But the I was going to say too, Siobhan, one of the things I do is if you you can go to smile.amazon.com. So every time you use Amazon, you can be making a donation to OneMama. So, you know, just by using their sort of nonprofit arm of Amazon, then you can just regularly be making a donation to OneMama. And like Siobhan said, if you're an entrepreneur yourself, you know, and I've done this in the past too, if you have a workshop or a class or something you're teaching where you want to donate a certain percentage of the fee from the course to a charity organization, you know, obviously we'd be thrilled if you make OneMama the beneficiary of some of the work you're doing. And then it introduces more people in the world to this as well.
Yeah.
And there's another opportunity, which is in the whole green energy sector. And Jessica was mentioning this before about climate change. There are a lot of startups and they're always looking for pilot programs. And since I have access to a lot of those startups in the green energy sector, anything that has to do with remote power, you know, solar, digging wells, all of those things, we will be proposing OneMama as a beneficiary, as a pilot program, so that they can actually get real data for the effectiveness of their technology, and at the same time provide that technology to OneMama.
Yeah, that's great. And those are, you know, there was a woman who was on 60 Minutes who had a solar water catchment program. We brought them to, you know, OneMama clinic, and, you know, that implemented that technology based on something very similar. So those are the kinds of things that have really been instrumental. Like without those kind of in-kind services or those kinds of partnerships, you know, we have a pretty extensive operating budget, but about half of that is in-kind services. I am a wheeler and dealer, right? Coming from myself being pretty poor, you know, you just learn how to make things happen. And so, you know, using those kinds of partnerships can maybe mean more than you think. You might not think that's that big of a deal, but, you know, what I always think of is like, when I go to Uganda, I buy all these bottles of water because there's no running water or clean water where I stay. So I have to buy all my own water and bring it with me to the village. And the little empty bottles, the kids want all the little plastic empty bottles. To me, that I'll get them toys. They don't like those toys. They want the plastic empty bottles. And my point of that is that you might think that is trash, but they think that's a treasure. And they play with it. They make toys out of it. They fill it up. You know, and I think that's kind of almost what most of us NGOs do too, right? We take whatever pieces that other people might not think is that big of a deal, and we try to do whatever we can to keep this baby running. And so, you know, and again, think all the women on the screen, well, I'm going to put Abby on here too, you know, really just thank them with your heart prayers, because, you know, we can't do this without every one of us having a voice and helping lift the voices of others. So we're getting close to closing. Is there anything from the panel that, you know, the team that you wanted to sort of say that I clearly forgot? I forgot about the smile at Amazon. That's a really easy one. Right, doing a party. There's probably tons of things. Like, I honestly create things and then forget about them. And then they just run. So I sort of depend on the team to sort of remind me about things. So is there anything, Abby, that we missed or that you felt like we should talk about that I missed?
I have one thing, Siobhan, just a quick one, but that if any of you who joined us today happen to have a direct contact to or know how we could reach Mackenzie Bezos, Melinda Gates also would be awesome. But Mackenzie Bezos has been donating money, to organizations around the world, and we are not quite sure how to sort of get on her radar yet. So I thought I'd just put that out there in case anyone has a contact.
Love it. Yeah.
I do. And yes.
Oh,
Adrienne, you make that happen, girl. I'll give you all the
God
One
bless,
Mama
goddess bless you. Yay. I knew I should say it out loud. Perfect. Yay. Thank you.
You always have to say it out loud because you never know who's in whose Rolodex.
Right? Exactly. Thank you. Oh, exciting.
Awesome. So, Adrienne, do you have any other comments besides that you're going to get that connection for us?
Well, I'm going to work on that connection for you. The great part is, and I want people to think about it this way, right? Like that's a big ask. And it's like, do I know her personally? No. Am I 1 degree of separation 80 times? Yes. Leading with One Mama is a great way to open that door and say, I have something you should look at, right? So it's kind of a win-win. So I am happy to open all of the doors for One Mama and introduce every single celebrity I know to One Mama, because it is a phenomenal organization. And honestly, I get the karma points because they're so excited when they find you. They're like, oh my God, I didn't even know. I'm like, there you go.
Thank you, Adrienne.
I love it. Thank you.
Jessica, do you have any last comments before we start closing this down?
I would just say, and this goes along actually with a speech that I gave back in November, is that again, none of these issues that we've talked about today are going to get solved by someone else. They're going to get solved by you as an individual, you as a person. So my advice is, and going along with what Siobhan said, is what are you good at? Start there. And then also, what problems can you use what you're good at to solve? And in the recent years, we've seen huge strides that entrepreneurship has made in that regard. Honestly, I think entrepreneurship is the solution to a lot of issues. So keep that in mind and don't forget. And let's not wait on other people. Let's be the change.
Aw, yeah. Thank you. And then Abby, any last thoughts? So again, Abby is the behind the scenes, all the websites, graphics, pictures, slide decks, communication, any technology is Abby. So she's quiet, but her voice is in all of her work. Do you have anything you want to say?
Thank you, Siobhan, for the shout outs.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I just want to say that I'll put a last link in the chat, which anyone can fill out the form and let us know what interests you and how to join One Mama and join our team. And we hope that we hear from you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. And Linka, it's good to see you on here. And Peggy, thanks for joining us. And thank you, panel. Lisa, I'm so grateful for you. Adrienne, I'm so grateful for you. Jessica, I'm so grateful for you. Abby, we definitely know we all could not do this without you. And, thank you, everyone. And we'll have a recording of this if you want to look at it later. And I think it will be up on the UN CSW website, right, Abby? Or you can go to our website
here, but we will create a landing page and share it with our followers. So
yes, yeah, it'll be on our website. We will always document all of these things. And so with that, I'd like to officially thank everyone, and then I'm going to close us out in a prayer. Abby, if you can take off that screen, and then I'm going to close us out with a prayer. So Lisa, thank you for being on our board. Thank you for all you do for keeping that positive energy. Go out in the world, keep doing what you're doing. Adrienne, if you can make that happen, I will just give you anything you ever want from the One Mama collection and the Shaboom collection. And then Jessica, thanks again for always being a voice for One Mama, putting my story in the world in a way that I was struggling with. So I appreciate you for that. And Abby, again, all of the visions that I come up with, you make happen in all of their forms and websites. So I really appreciate you for all you do and for helping get everything done today. So with that, let's do a prayer. So I have the gauntlet of candle. Heavenly divine sunlight spirit, sunlight of the spirit, bless each of us that we have a light inside of us that lights so bright, like the sunlight, like sun rays shining out of us of pure joy, that it radiates so much that every one of us become one combined sunlight of the spirit, interconnected through this thread of divine change, guidance, and that we walk on these sacred lands wherever we may be in the world, and we hold and lift all those who cannot do this right now, all of those in war, all of those in poverty, all of those who feel their voices not heard. Can we lift those up, and we lift the sunlight of the Spirit in every cell of their bodies, through our bodies, that we are all one, and we all walk today humbly asking to do the next right thing and to be caretakers of this vision, whatever that vision is, that we all lift it up and we do the next right thing in peace and joy and no ego. Om, peace, shanti. All right, thanks everyone. Go be. Have an amazing Friday and enjoy your CSW experience. And we thank you all.